to horse racing, casinos, etc. That has evoked a fair degree of backlash from the online gaming industry. To talk about that and the other decisions taken by the GST Council, joining us now is the Revenue Secretary, Mr. Malhotra. Mr. Malhotra, always a pleasure. Thanks very much for joining us here on CNBC-TV18. Let me start by talking to you about that 28% rate hike decision that was taken by the GST Council. There was a group of ministers that submitted 2 reports, inconclusive, and the GOM essentially said, let the GST Council decide. Did the centre propose that there be a 28% tax on full value as opposed to 28% on GGR, which was the expectation?
This was a unanimous decision. Insofar as, online games, horse racing, etc. is concerned, this is neither a decision of the centre nor of the states alone. It's a decision of both the states and the centre. They were all one, they were all unanimous that it has to be 28%. It is 28%. It is 28% on face value. And this is what they have reiterated. It's not a change or a departure. And as I mentioned,
no, it's 18% on platform fee.
This is what the online gaming companies have been interpreting it. And so that's why the council has said that to clear the air and to put, all debate to rest, because they have taken a certain line saying that these are actionable claims, these are games which are actionable claims, not amounting to betting, gambling, lottery, etc. And so they are not taxable because we have excluded actionable claims from the GST law. And so to clear this and to make it absolutely clear that these online games, when played for stakes, with some expectation of return on a win or on an outcome, then that is an actionable claim which is taxable. If there is an online game in which there are no stakes involved, you are just playing it for entertainment, then that is not an online real money game. And that is not taxable at 28%, but that is taxable at 18%. So if you look at reasons of equity, see, taxes have to be equitous. We all agree on that. So if you look at these games, these online games for stakes, and compare it with other comparable activities, look at entertainment, some of the entertainment activities like entry to sporting events, like for example IPL is taxed at 28%. So if you treat it as entertainment alone, you don't treat it as betting, even then, and betting, etc., lotteries are already at 28%. So if you consider it as betting or akin to a lottery, then lottery is at 28%. If you consider it as entertainment, then some of the activities related to entertainment are also at 28%. So I think this must have weighed, in the minds of the GST Council when they took this decision.
I want to pick up on what you just said. You said that the 18% GST on the gross gaming revenue, which is in effect at this point in time, is the interpretation of online gaming companies. Are we to understand then that these changes will apply retrospectively? So the 28% on full value will apply retrospectively?
That's why I said, that the rate has always been, to our mind, to our understanding and interpretation, also held by our ASG, is that it is 28% on the full value, on the, not the GGR, but the full or the face value as some people call it. And so it's basically a clarification. And so this is
a very important clarification.
So, yes, and so it is already having effect as of date, and so there is no question of retrospectivity because it's already 28% on the face value, and we continue to charge that. Prospectively, this doubt no longer remains. That's the only difference.
Okay, so this will apply retrospectively because you're saying that this is already in place. This is merely a clarification that is being issued by the GST Council by way of the decision taken last night, and of course it will apply prospectively. But you do need to bring in the amendment to the law as well. Are you hopeful of being able to bring that through in the monsoon session of Parliament?
Yeah, so two things. One, that there is a court case which we lost, because of which the gaming companies are charging 18% on GGR, as you have mentioned.
Yes.
So we will be challenging that. So there is an SLP that we are planning to file in the Supreme Court. So that is one. So that takes care of the past period. Going forward, as you have mentioned, the Council has decided to amend the law, and we are hopeful that we will be able to bring it and get it through in the monsoon session.
Okay, so two important headlines. One, that the government intends to challenge that order, which is why gaming companies at this point in time have felt comfortable with the idea of an 18% GST on GGR. So the government intends to challenge that. How soon do you intend to do that?
Hopefully this month.
Within this month. And you're saying in the monsoon session you will bring in the amendment to the GST law to ensure that this is no longer a question going forward. You said that all tax decisions need to be equitable. Now, the response from the online gaming industry is, and I will just use some of the adjectives that they've used, that this is a crippling blow, this is a death knell, it's a body blow. It will make this industry viable. And the context in which this is coming is being questioned. They're saying that MeitY earlier this year had put out rules. In fact, I'm reading from the press release that had been issued by the government then, saying that we would like the online gaming ecosystem to expand and grow and be an important catalyst to India's $1 trillion digital economy goal by 2025-26. We envision a bigger role for startups in the online gaming industry. Now, the online gaming industry is saying, what happened to that vision? Because in light of the decision taken last night, they go on record to say that this business is no longer viable.
So two things, let me clarify. One, as I already mentioned, online games are, two kinds. One is, games played for stake, which are commonly also called as, real money games, and those without stakes. So it's not as if, online gaming industry should mean only, the games played for money or money online games. Secondly, also that the MeitY regulations also talk about permissible online games.
Correct.
Although we can always, have different regulations for the purposes, different laws for the purposes of regulating an industry. You are aware, for lottery, there is a separate law. Each state is, some states are having lottery, some states have banned it, some states are having lottery. Similarly, horse racing, some states are having racing clubs, some have not allowed it.
Yeah.
And there are regulations around it. But taxing is a separate law than regulation. So while the MeitY has regulations, and they have certain definitions, our definitions should be, and our attempt will be to align with them, but they can be different also. Nevertheless, their definition of permissible online games also mentions and has a condition that they have to be without wagering on outcomes.
Correct.
So if that is their definition, our understanding is that those involve games which are not, in the nature of having consideration of a receipt in kind or cash on outcomes.
Okay, so basically real money games. Is there, industry is asking for a review, for a reconsideration. At this point in time, do you believe that they should be hopeful of any possibility of a review or reconsideration?
No, that's not for me, to decide. I mean, they are free to make their requests. That is something for the council, but the council was very emphatic. The council was unanimous, as I have already mentioned. And so I really, personally, although I am not the one to take this decision, but I don't think there is any chance of a review so early. Moreover, I may also mention that their apprehensions are only apprehensions, right? And what plays out will depend on, how elastic, the demand is going to be.
Sure.
So we really don't know, what is the elasticity of demand for such kind of games. And that is something, which will actually play out after we have actually implemented the changes in the tax rates.
Two more questions on the issue of the decision taken yesterday with respect to online gaming before I talk to you about the others. One question that's come in specifically from the industry is this: why are games of chance being given a preferential treatment to games of skill? Casinos are going to be taxed on deposits, while online gaming is being taxed on the bet amount. Taxes on the bet amount will be at least 100% higher than the taxes on deposit.
Let me clarify, there is no differentiation. I do not know where they have got this differentiation from. To my understanding and to the understanding of all the members, we are treating them equally. It will be, the tax will be on the payments made to either the platform or to the casino owner or the manager of the casino. So they are being treated exactly similarly. There is no difference.
Okay, there is no difference is what you're saying. Finally, on the issue of retrospective action, and you intend to challenge this, and one will have to see. We cannot preempt the challenge and what transpires in court. But have you done an assessment of what the claims could be? Does the department have an...
Online games last year, 22-23, gave us a revenue of about 1,700 crore rupees to be precise. And in case we win, this figure can be as high as 5 to 10 times.
As high?
As 5 to 10 times of the amount that we got.
Okay, so if you win...
Or even more.
Or if you win that challenge.
If you win.
Okay, that is an if at this point in time, but of course the government making it clear that you do intend to challenge this. Let me move away from gaming to talk about some of the other clarifications that came in to do with food and beverages as far as cinema halls are concerned, or on the SUV classification. What is the impact of these measures to your mind?
See, primarily these are clarifications for ease of doing business, for simplification. So the SUV really, is not something that we are doing for revenue purposes. Similarly, the F&B when served in cinema halls, etc. It's more of a clarification. So if the food and beverages are bought within a cinema hall and it's not bundled with the entry fees, then it will be charged as restaurant, whatever you would pay in the restaurant, you pay same taxes, which is about 5%. And the SUV, there was a doubt. I mean, it was subject to misclassification because we had 4 conditions for an SUV to be taxed at 28% plus,
the compensation tax, yes.
%. And one of them was, subject to interpretation, which is it has to be popularly known as SUV. So now if you classify it as XUV or as MUV or something else, but all other parameters remain same, which the 3 were the length, the engine capacity more than 1500 cc and the ground clearance, then you can avoid this tax or this additional compensation cess. So this is more, of a rate alignment, more of a simplification.
Okay. That's as far as the decisions that were taken by the GST Council at its 50th meeting. There were some other items which were not on the agenda. Things like the rate rationalization for cement, for instance. Is there the possibility of some of these matters being taken up by the Fitment Committee and then by the GST Council in the next meeting?
There are always, some items which are under consideration, and they are with the Fitment Committee. One of them was related to, nothing, related to cement. I do not know, where from the industry, the media has picked up cement. So I want to, clear the air here that there is nothing on under consideration insofar as cement is considered at this point of time. But yes, there are others under consideration like steel scrap, etc. And then we have a GM, on rate rationalization, which is to be reconstituted post the change in the Karnataka, government.
Right.
So the GM will be looking into those aspects and coming up with their recommendations, which the council will consider.
You know, you talked about some of the measures that were taken really to ease the compliance burden and bring in simplification. One of the concerns that's been raised specifically by e-commerce companies, for instance, is that the department or the GST department is going after them, especially in co-working spaces, etc., if they don't have the books of accounts and so on and so forth there, and it's not practical for them to operate in that form or fashion. Is there a thinking on being able to address that specific grievance?
You would be aware, that we are having a drive against bogus firms. So, and a large number of bogus firms have been detected. So it's a real problem. Now, as per law, whether you are an e-commerce operating company or whether you are actually a supplier supplying goods, the law is the same. That if you have registration in multiple states, then each state, you have to have, you can have co-working space, that's not an issue. You continue to have, co-working space, that's not an issue. But you should be able to demonstrate to us your books from that space. That's why, this registration is necessary. So I am aware, that they have these concerns, but I think these are misplaced.
Okay.
We can have a word with them because our intention has always been to promote them. There was an agenda, this meeting also, on providing clarity as to who pays the TCS or the TCS, when there are multiple ECOS, the electronic commerce operators, like in an ONDC platform. So we'll be willing to speak to them if they are having issues, but they have to maintain accounts. They have to be able to prove to us that they are actually, operating from a particular place in case they have taken registration in a particular state.
Okay. Let me then ask you about another specific concern that was raised at least by some state governments yesterday, and this has to do with the GST and being brought under the PMLA by way of a Gazette notification. One was that this ought to have been something that was taken up by the GST Council. It should have been a decision taken at the level of the GST Council, or at least a deliberation at the level of the GST Council, to the rationale behind it, if you could explain both.
Yeah, so if I give something to you, do I ask you? You may take it, you may not take it, you can use it, the way you want to use it, right? So the government, is empowering you, is giving you something. You don't need to be consulted, is what, I feel. If you are giving something, well, you can use it the way you want to use it. But it is something to empower you. Now, why it was done is primarily because we are having, the mutual evaluation under FATF, you are aware. And this is a year-long exercise. The FATF has its recommendations. As per the recommendations, suspicious transactions have to be monitored. So they are already being monitored. Then they are passed on to what is called Director FIU.
Right.
Now, this Director FIU was confused with ED. Some people felt, that we are giving information to ED. No. So information is not going to ED. The information is going to GSTN. So the flow of direction is not from GSTN to ED, was clarified to them, but it is from Director FIU to GSTN. So it is something that they are getting. They are not giving away or parting with anything. And this is essentially, to empower them, to equip them. Whatever suspicious transactions are recorded are being given to other bodies like the ED.
Yeah.
So in fact, they are being treated at par with ED, in certain senses. In the sense that they are also being equally empowered with this information to be used the way they want it to be used in case there is any tax evasion, etc. This was clarified to them, and all of them appreciated this, and they understood that this is something which is certainly required, and I think they were satisfied with the explanation that was given.
Okay. Speaking of the road ahead as far as the GST is concerned, as you pointed out, that rate rationalization at this point in time, as and when GOM is reconstituted, we don't know. Is this a priority, or do you believe that compliance, cracking down on evasion, bogus firms, etc., that's the priority as far as the department is concerned today?
No, the concerns are, first of all, the concerns are that our taxpayers and the industry, as far as possible, make the law simple and easy to comply with. That is, the basic thing, that we are working on. And in the process, yes, of course, if there are, some people who are misusing this, or they are taking undue advantage of this, then we have to take action against them. That is not something of a priority, but yes, we would certainly like that the compliance increases. Certain flexibilities were given in the initial phases of implementation of GST. Now we are working, as to how to streamline them so that while the honest taxpayer is not put to any burden or any inconvenience, at the same time, the fraudulent ones, they are not able to misuse it.
Okay. Well, speaking of burden on taxpayers, and I think there was a significant backlash, especially online, from taxpayers on the issue of the TCS. And because of operational issues, you've now decided to push that out to the 1st of October. But there is still confusion on whether you eventually intend to bring credit cards under the LRS or not. The press release sort of leaves it ambivalent. Can you clarify for us that from October, will credit cards be brought under the LRS, or will credit cards continue to remain out of the ambit of the LRS?
1st October, it's not the credit cards are certainly not in. That's for sure, because we need, that much amount of time. So from 1st October this year, they are certainly not on the cards. Secondly, I am not the right person to be speaking about it, because this is something, which, as you would be aware, DA handles,
yes,
as to whether something should be in LRS or not. But as, as an individual, I do feel that mode of payment should certainly not determine, whether something is in LRS or something is not in LRS. The issue really is, how do you try to track it? How do you track, as to what the remittances are? And how do you, at the same time, not inconvenience the transactions which are required for day-to-day operations, which are not in the nature of LRS. But this is, for DA actually to answer.
To comment on. Let me then ask you about, the pulse check as far as the economy is concerned. In the last economic review that the Finance Ministry put out, in your words, in the words of the Ministry itself, it's been a stellar period as far as the Indian economy is concerned. There were questions on the monsoon. We're now seeing flooding across large parts of North India, which has disrupted both lives and livelihoods. On balance, your take on how things are at this point in time and what the expectation is going forward?
No, they are very positive. We are optimistic. Whatever projections have been given for revenues, for credit, for economy, not again for me to say, but they are all on track. We are doing well, in revenues. You have seen 11.6% growth in GST. Similarly, on the direct taxes, 16% growth is there. This is above, whatever, we had targeted for, whatever we have projected. And the credit growth, again, continues to do well. The external balance of payments, they are growing. We are now almost back to $600 billion. The current account deficit is, much in control. The economy is doing well. The investor confidence is up. So I am quite sanguine, about revenues and the economy in general.
Linked to revenue, of course, the question mark as far as disinvestment receipts are concerned. And again, there doesn't seem to be any...
That's not for me.
I understand. I know it's technically not under your remit, but, do you believe that is going to continue to be a hole that is going to be challenging?
I don't think, much has been targeted for this year, and I'm not aware of the specifics. Hopefully, and it's not such a very high amount. I think overall we should, on the revenues front, including disinvestment, there will always be, some pluses and some minuses. Some misses will be there, but then there will be areas where we'll do better than what is projected. So on the whole, I think we should do well on the revenue side.
So almost, at the end of the half point of this calendar year. What should we expect as priorities, for you specifically as we head to, of course, the financial year end, the vote on account, and the end of the calendar year as well?
No, as you have said, the taxpayers continue to be our priority. So how we can make life simpler for them, convenient for them, and at the same time, how we can improve tax compliance without hurting the convenience of the honest taxpayers. This is going to be, our priority.
Ms. Malhotra, always a pleasure. Many thanks for joining us here on CNBC-TV18. Appreciate your time, and thanks for some of the clarifications. We will, of course, look forward to seeing what the government does decide to do. You did give us very specific headlines that you will be challenging that order on the 18% GGR that was being levied on online gaming companies. Your belief is that that was their interpretation, and, of course, bringing the amendment in the monsoon session of Parliament. Always a pleasure. Appreciate you joining us here on CNBC-TV18.
Thank you.
With that, it is time for us to wrap up this edition of the Newsmaker. From all of us here on the team, for now, goodbye, and many thanks for watching.